agendas by re-educating both human and non-humans. So again, our role here, this is what's fascinating, as universal synthesizers, because this realm is where we have dominion and power as God consciousness, in many levels, it's our role to release those of non-human energies from their own enslavement and belief systems and feeling that they have to suppress us and treat us in terms of a parasitic consciousness. So this is understanding the true power of the human being, and no wonder there's a suppression. They don't want to show the space with a God consciousness like a human being. So there's a lot of suppression in place. So the exopolitic agenda, again, educating both humans and non-humans to be aligned to the universal law of one, which is freedom, fraternity, and the sovereign right of all beings to be a knower of God's source. And it's protected by the collective unity vow shared among our universal guardian groups. They have given me a unity vow, and as we set the intention in continuing our space here tonight, if you would, very much like preparing for meditation, only take in what words, of course, resonate with you, but we're going to do the unity vow, which is like a handshake to the guardian races. What we're doing is we're setting the field and intention, and we're opening a vortex now in our group field that is holding in our heart unity. So if you would, for a moment, we're calling in our defenders of truth, sovereignty, and liberation, the guardian races that are serving the one. From across the multiverse, we call upon you to join with us now. Our unification principle deemed as demonstrated in the waves of omni-love. We sound our group note to you now. Our group template, updated individually and collectively, renewed and forever perpetuated in the eternally sustained light. Our alchemical container here at ESETI is consecrated and dedicated to the purposes of one. And we endeavor to be the knower of God, to be the way shower of God. Sustain us in the eternal power of our consecration. We call for our beloved's gatekeeping in order to hold our planet, our community, our missions, our mutual highest purposes in service to the one light, our source, the living light code. Our intention is unification, the Christ principle as an energetic reality here and now. We request the handshake of our group community to fortify our spiritual links through the universal cosmic trinity into the core of one, the 0-point God matrix, that which is the source of our genesis. With deep reverence for all of life, beloved God, breathe your life code into all created form. We set our intention now to be remembered to that which we are fully, completely, and totally. As we state our mutual purpose as one, resurrect all inorganic pattern to the organic living light of God now. And to that we say, thank God we are the cosmic Christ, and so it is commanded with loving decree. Thank you so much for holding space for that. Okay, so what is Ascension? Ascension and the 2012 timeline for me is interchangeable. It is basically saying the same thing. So Ascension is the mechanics behind creation. It's a spiritual science. It's the way consciousness moves through a time-space matrix. So you're kind of going, okay, well, why is this important? For some of us, it will be important at some level. It depends at what level of stewardship and leadership and planetary service is a part of either your aspiration or your role here on this planet. This information, by the way, tends to be designed more for those coming into the expansion, being recruited at the next levels of what I call stewardship. I hesitate to use the word leader because leader has a negative connotation, but again, in understanding the facilitation of being an instrument of God's will in action, there's a stewardship responsibility to understand how your consciousness impacts the field. The more influence you have, the more public you become, the more that you impact the field, the more responsibility you have. And this is understanding to set the intention of a pristine field which allows unity consciousness to actually be an energetic reality on this planet rather than a thought form or belief system. We're endeavoring to bring in the intelligence field of unity, and this is what the Guardians have described. It is an energetic reality, it's not a thought form. When we are able to connect to this level of intelligence, we become the living light example of that energetic expression. There is no ability to think outside of that complete level of reality. And this is what the divine destiny of humankind is coming in to living and being that unity consciousness. So all energy is conscious, and consciousness is energy. And through the various levels of creation, which I'm going to help you connect to in your own bodies, you'll understand that your chakras are levels of intelligence which are very powerful to connect with when you become aware of these levels and how they actually operate within your field. So when I'm speaking about timelines and dimensions, like a dimensional plane of existence, they're the same thing. As we move higher in the octave system, and you can use your chakra column as a model, we're moving forward in time, which is a little bit mind-bending, isn't it? So all of ourselves are having an expression in the now moment, but they're existing on multiple levels of dimensions of reality. So as we move higher up the octave system, we're actually moving forward. We're skipping in time. And a lot of what's happening on this planet at this time is we have the ability to change the past and change the future of the human race by maintaining the now moment of consciousness, which is again why there's so many beings, around 7 billion or so on this planet at this time, because they all knew this was the time to be here. What happens here in this timeline, because this is the Ascension timeline cycle, and we in these forms are the singularity point that are collapsing these other levels of identity that we have been, otherwise known as past lives. But past lives isn't really accurate because other stations of identity that you are existing in another time and space are not the past. They're actually happening simultaneously. But the Ascension is collapsing those realities into this body. And that means the intelligence and the memory of those various identities are becoming accessed through this form. And we also have that as an available sort of gift to us now at this time as well, is to actually access those levels of self in this body. So again, we are skipping forward in time. The Ascension is bringing us forward in time, and it's changing the focus of our consciousness. We are moving into another reality, dimension, or timeline during this cycle. And again, this happens, apparently from their perspective, every 26,556 years. So as of 2008, our planet has entered exposure to galactic frequencies. Now what this means is that there's frequencies that are here, that are exposed to the grid and the atmosphere of our third dimensional Earth that have never, ever been here before. And again, this is from their perspective that I'm sharing this. This is why this is so huge. And it's also time to why I'm standing here in front of you, because I've been prepared for 10 years about this galactic frequency, wondering, what the heck is this about if you're going to keep me locked in my bathrobe in my bedroom? What is this for? How am I going to live on this planet if you're going to take me way out there? Well, it was preparation for this time. This time we are opening into a galactic frequency cycle, and this means that in a sense, this is exactly what we want. We have access to communication with extraterrestrial, ultra-terrestrial, all kinds of cosmic beings that we've not had access to in this last cycle. The way they describe it is we've been in a one-way portal system, very much like a ring past knot, where they could look in but they couldn't get in. We now have intergalactic and ancient portals that are starting to opening within the Stargate system of our planet. And yes, they have described there is a Stargate system on this planet, and that Stargate system is starting to conduct to galactic frequencies, and these frequencies are starting to be sent out into the human populace. Now we're, of course, the niche We are the indigo and star family races that have the genetic encodement that give us the desire to even be here. Because as you know, most people in the 3D thought consciousness would have absolutely no resonance or desire to hear a thing of what I'm talking about. And that is purposed in the genetic coding of your being. This means that there is star genetics, there is indigo genetics that you have retained in your human incarnations that gives you the desire to feel a resonance, to be here, and to even listen or participate with this kind of material. As one thing they've described is that, even though this is oversimplified, is that there's two levels of being on this planet right now. There's third-dimensional beings and there's multi-dimensional beings. And I'm going to talk about this level of intelligence because those of us that are multi-dimensional, which is everyone in this room, will need to, at times, can benefit and be empowered from understanding what to expect when you're dealing with the level of intelligence that's finite. And what I'm referring to is ego consciousness. Our desire to empower and to expand ourselves is to learn where the impulse of our thoughts are coming from. Is it coming from your ego, or is it coming from your higher God self? You want to choose the higher God self, believe me, because the ego is very finite in its understanding and awareness. And generally, the ego consciousness, otherwise known as the 3D program, is something that most people get caught up in and actually experience tremendous amounts of fear, limitation, or suffering. And I'm going to say right now, this resonates with you, make the commitment to eradicate all fear from your being, all fear programming, and all self-doubt needs to leave your being so that you can carve the space to allow your God self to begin to embody and for you to hear and connect and sense the function of your soul, the function of your higher divinity. The fear program is what keeps the spirit unable to fully embody. And as we can see, there is an outward agenda to keep us in fear, so this is not exactly a small task. But understanding what's going on at this time and being committed to your own spiritual growth and your spirit and soul purpose as your primary priority. For me right now, it's really non-negotiable spirituality. Commit to serve your soul every day as the highest priority you have. And with that alone, you will achieve miracles. You will get support from guardians, you'll get support from your own evolution support team. Really work on clearing fear programming because it's just going to increase. Now, what I'm here to really describe is a model of integrated ascension. One of the things that has happened within the New Age circle or cycle is when we're not aware of where our thoughts are picking up impulses, or we're still externally needing something to be a certain way, what we actually are doing is creating a cording and an attachment to something, and when we do that, we give our power away. Really, our goal is to retain our power as a consciousness, and this, for me, is the ultimate sustainability. How can we use sustainability in our planet if we're not inner sustained? So when we understand that when you're giving your power outside of yourself, which means you're externally directed or needing something to be a certain way, you're leaking your power, you're giving your power to something outside of yourself. Our goal is really to come into inner sustainability and inner direction so that you can feel and sense. And that again means we'll have to open the sensory and feeling experience. You're going to have to get over the fear of feeling and knowing that feeling is the heart intelligence that aligns you to the higher consciousness fields. What we are changing is our thought process of analysis, needing to analyze and use our mind to make decisions based upon sensory intelligence, which is how your divinity works. It doesn't use